Hi, my name is Pat O'Connor. I'm the broker owner of the Veritas Real Estate Group. We're located in Coral Springs. Today I want to talk about 3 popular real estate scams. The first one of these became very evident during the last recession. Started in about 2007, lasted to about 2012 or so. And this is one in which the homeowners facing foreclosure were the targets. They were desperate to stay in the house. People came along and offered them a chance to sign a deed over to them, and in return they would be allowed to stay and pay the new owners rent. And then when they were back on their feet financially, they could get the house back. They had to pay an upfront fee, and then everything was okay. However, a couple of months later, they may get a phone call from the lender, the servicing company, saying that they are late on their mortgage. And it's like, oh my gosh, I thought the new owners would pay the mortgage. What they didn't understand was the person responsible for paying the mortgage is the person whose name is on the note. So they signed the deed over, but the note stayed in the owner's name, in the original owner's names. So these scammers collected an upfront fee and a couple of months' rent, and then they could disappear with the deed. And they wouldn't be able to keep the house permanently, because if nobody paid the mortgage, then the lender would foreclose on the property and they would eventually lose the property. But they had the upfront money and they had the rent that had been collected. All right, so be careful. Don't sign the deed over unless it's done professionally with an attorney who can make sure that someone else is responsible for the note, that it is not you. All right? Okay, the second one really targets real estate agents, I think, more than it does the public, because I get these notices all the time. Please wire the escrow money to such and such an account. Anytime you have a listing in the MLS, and even when you don't, you may get these just because you're in the business. And so then we have warnings from various title companies all the time. Do not transfer any money upon written instructions unless you call us to verify it. And you use a number that you know is us. And a lot of us use pretty much the same title companies most of the time. So we know the numbers and we know the, people's names that are handling the account. But it happens a lot. And if they're contacting potential buyers, I'm not sure where that information is coming from unless, somehow your accounts were hacked. But they could just routinely send off wiring messages to the thousands of real estate agents here in South Florida. Everybody and their brother and sister is a real estate agent around here. Not that bad, but it's close. Okay, the last one is the most prevalent one now that would affect the public. And these are fake rental listings in Craigslist. And I think predominantly they are short-term rentals where people are out of state and they're not coming to view the property. Like if you were here, living here, and you were going to rent something, you would walk through the place more than likely. But if you were in New York and you wanted to have bridal party down in Florida for a long weekend, before a wedding, then you're not going to fly down to Florida to pick it up. You'll look at the pictures. Oh, it's a mansion on the Intercoastal. That's great. We'll pay all this money for a 3-day weekend. We saw it in Craigslist. It must be true. And then they come down here. No one's there to meet them. If they're given an access code, it doesn't work. They call the owner, look it up on the county records. Owner knows nothing about it. The owner is a snowbird, we call them, and they may be living in Massachusetts, and this is their summer home or their winter home, and they didn't know it was rented out. So be very careful if you want to rent something for a short term. Pay when you get here. Not sure that you want to pay in advance, because once they have the money, they're gone and you're stuck. And I know for a fact that story about the mansion on the Intercoastal happened, and it made the news a couple years ago when they interviewed the girls on TV. And the lender came out later and said, yeah, that particular property had been part of a scam 4 or 5 times, because it was a beautiful mansion with this water view. All right, so the last thing is just a reminder again, don't ever sign your deed over unless you're quit claiming it to a family member and you already have the mortgage paid off, so that the mortgage isn't an issue. But don't ever transfer ownership without also having the loan paid off by the new, with proceeds from a sale, if you're doing a for sale by owner, and that you're somehow doing a quick claim, and you don't realize you have to pay off your mortgage. Get an attorney. Real estate attorneys are prevalent here. We don't use them a lot here in Florida for residential because it's not a law. Anybody asked you to sign a deed over to them, I would suggest that you hire an attorney, particularly if you have a mortgage. Okay? All right, this was short, sweet. I don't know, but I will see you next Sunday. Okay, bye.